Hello everyone, it's Brian from Summit Integrated Wellness. I wanted to come to you because I actually sprained my ankle a couple days ago, and I want to show you kind of my rehab process for sprained ankles. Now, I've been able to take people in my clinic from a sprained ankle all the way back to full competition in about 4 days. So I'm going to go over the next couple of days and show you just the process that I go through. Now, one of the pieces I don't have is the ability to actually put my hands on my own ankle and foot, make sure things are working the way that it should, but it is what it is, so we'll do the best we can. I'm trying to get this ankle back as fast as possible because I want to go snowboarding this weekend, so I am actually putting more time and effort into my ankle to make that happen. So we'll pan down to take a look at my ankle so you can see. And as you can see, my left ankle here is a lot more swollen than my right ankle. And this is a snowboard injury, and it's not a traditional ankle sprain. Without getting into a whole lot of the anatomy, I actually sprained it in an inversion sprain, and then I recoiled and went into an eversion sprain. So I'm not just sprained on one side, I'm actually sprained on both sides, so it's really tender. Today is day 2, and so what you'll see is where we have come from in one day already. Day 1, I could barely even put weight on my foot. Now I can shift my weight over and I can balance on that foot. Day 1, I could barely stand on that foot for too long. Also driving, I drive a manual vehicle, and after about 20 minutes of driving, that ankle was extremely fatigued. So what happened with my ankle is, as I was riding, this is my back foot, I ended up hitting a rock. So I was up like this with my back foot, and the board hit a rock and it launched me forward, so it created this inversion sprain as my upper body went faster than my lower body, and then it dipped my tip of my snowboard in, and then it flung me backwards, and I went the exact opposite way. So because of that injury, I went from here all the way to here to 2 different extremes. So I'm going to show you a couple of the exercises that I've been doing just to continue to get motion into that ankle and to make sure that we're able to get fluids pumping in and out, and to try and get all that swelling to circulate within the ankle itself. And I also want to take note that I have been doing specific nutritional protocol as well in order to reduce the inflammatory foods that I am intaking to help reduce overall inflammation in my body as well. So that's removing things such as dairy and gluten, and also taking proteolytic enzymes to help break down a lot of that inflammation that's already built up in those tissues, and to help with the repair process of those tissues. Now, because of the double sprain here, I did find out that rolling my ankle like this hurts the most. Therefore, that's kind of one of the last areas that I'm working myself into. But for the purpose of rebuilding, I do want to make sure that I continue to keep my plantar flexion and my dorsiflexion, and I want to be able to work on my side-to-side motion and eventually get into that rotational region of the ankle, so that I maintain all of my range of motion, so that once I'm back to full strength, then I'm not lacking anything in that ankle. So the first step I was doing is just doing some reaches. Like I said yesterday, I could not do this without having support to take some of the weight off of that ankle. So I can challenge that ankle by going a little further and further. And for the most part, this actually does not hurt. But I am seeing how much dorsiflexion I have at the end ranges, and as I come through, see if there's a little bit of plantar flexion. Now, I knew going out to the side this way, I was fine. I didn't have a whole lot of pain there, but coming across the body, if I went too far, then it did create some pain. So I started off with just going until I barely touched that pain point. I'm just kissing it and then I back right out of it. But the whole time, that ankle is working here. Then now, I'm opening up to this way. There's a little tenderness, but not much. And then if I come back to here, if I go too much further, then there is pain. So I never want to fully cross into the pain, but I do want to touch it so that I can get the body to start adapting and pushing that barrier. So I'm opening and closing, opening and closing. And then I transition into like if I was going to take a step. So day one, I could not walk straight at all. I was doing a lot of hobbling and I was avoiding going through that ankle. Now, I've been working on starting in a static stepping position and driving my hips forward. And since it's my left ankle, I'm pulling that left hip back to create some of that inversion of the ankle, but not too much because I don't want to go into the pain. But I'm reteaching the motion to my body so it doesn't lock up and eventually get to the point where my ankle isn't doing the motions it's supposed to. So this is actually feeling pretty good. So I can use the hands on my hips to guide that motion a little bit more. Now, I definitely want to get some side-to-side action here. And all that feels good. If I go too far this way to the right, I can feel that a little bit, but not bad. And that feels pretty good. Now I can do the same thing with the left foot forward, but this time I'm trying to get it to collapse. So I can help spin my own thigh and lower leg inward to start creating eversion at the ankle and down at the heel joint there. So all this was extremely tender yesterday. Today it's feeling a lot better. Definitely side-to-side motion is very difficult if I'm trying to do anything quick. And after I have it warmed up nicely like that, then we're going to transition over to a wall. So here I am at the wall. I'm going to put that left foot back and I'm going to start driving my right foot forward. So I'm creating a lot of dorsiflexion in that ankle and trying to make sure I get that range of motion back. The first thing that happened was I was losing range of motion extremely fast, and that's due to the swelling. So you want to keep, especially that dorsiflexion, available. So that's feeling okay there. I'm driving with my hip too, so I'm tucking my tailbone and I'm driving it forward. I'm going to keep it all the way forward, and I'm opening up side to side. And that right there is going to get the heel to start moving in and out, which is fine as long as it's not painful. It's the next motion that I'm more concerned about, which is opening the hip and then closing the hip in, because that really pronates the foot and inverts the foot, or supinates it. So we're opening and closing. So far that feels pretty good, surprisingly. And then after that, then I come here and then I do some knee circles. I'm just reinstating that motion. The biggest thing when it comes to injuries is you don't want to lock down any kind of joint or tissue and have restrictions that you have to work on later. So keeping the motion going helps to keep that motion in the long run. And then I do some bouncing and testing out the elasticity within the tissues themselves. We'll work more on the elastic recoil later on. But the fact that I can go side to side pretty well with very minimal pain right here that's a good sign. Then I'll drop that foot back and I'll do some squats just to build some strength in that side. So I'm dropping back into that left hip. And there we go. So I can do this with my right side. So that's how much dorsiflexion I have there. That's my active dorsiflexion on this side, which is still a lot less than the right side. But we're working on it. And then if I really want to test out the plantar flexion, I can sit back on my heels and see how tender it is. This is painful. I don't really want to be here for too long, but it's good to keep that motion. And then when I'm done, I'll come right out and shake it free. And that's the exercises that I am doing for day 2. Tomorrow we'll go and assess the ankle and see how things are going, and then hopefully we can progress more into elastic recoil.